HarperCollins presents Normal Women, Making History for 900 Years by Philippa Gregory. Read by Hannah Berchtold, introduced by the author.
Introduction. Hello. I bet you didn't know that the first history of England was written in the year 731. Written by a man, a priest, who had lived since he was 7 years old in a men-only monastery. In the centuries after him, other men wrote history books, but history wasn't taught as a subject at universities until 1872, with men historians teaching only men students. No women were allowed to graduate from the University of Oxford until 1920, and Cambridge until 1948. When women finally got to study history, they discovered there are no women in history. In the books and the papers they found in the university libraries, there were hardly any women at all. No artists, composers, scientists, soldiers, heroines, mathematicians, sailors. In one huge history book, Winston Churchill's A History of the English-Speaking Peoples, starting in 55 BCE and ending in 1902, there are 1,413 named men and just 98 named women. And most of them are the mothers of famous men. Winston Churchill went to an all-boys school from the age of 7, and then into the men-only army. I think there's a pattern here. Even today, you can find books called 10 Inspiring Women or 20 Women at War. But you won't find one called Millions and Millions and Millions of Women. It's what I should have called this book. When it became clear there were very few women in the history books, men set about explaining why. They wrote biology books, explaining that women were not physically strong and unlikely to do anything dangerous. They said that women did not have scientific or technical brains, so they couldn't do maths or design. Men wrote music histories, explaining that women were not musical. They wrote art books, saying that women couldn't paint. Today, when we think of English women of the past, we mostly think of the women of the 1800s and 1900s. Big dresses, stagecoaches, bonnets, balls. These 2 centuries were when women's lives were the most limited, women were the most inactive, and, since they had to give all their wealth to husbands on marriage, the poorest. They were supposed to stay home and do nothing. It was the start of the modern world, and women had no place in it. But there is much more to history than those 200 years, and women were powerful, active, and effective in all of it. Finding these women takes some detective work, because the writers of their time, mostly men, don't describe them. I had to read the laws to see what they were banned from doing. I had to look at land records to find out what women owned, and at business records to see women squeezed out of work. I looked at criminal records to see what women were doing in their ordinary lives when they were arrested. The only records that are easy to find are those made when writers, mostly rich men, wanted to stop women doing something, or when they saw women doing something outstandingly brilliant or outstandingly bad. Women don't get into the records, and from the records into the history books, until the middle of the 1900s. At last, when historians of every gender, race, belief, and sexuality start to look for people like themselves, and their brilliant books are the basis of this history. So this book is a new sort of history, a book about normal women, stretching over 9 centuries from 1066. I read the great histories written from the 1060s to the 1960s, gathered up all the tiny mentions I could find of women, whoever they
Sample complete. Ready to continue?